Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to change the landscape of podcasting as you know it in professional wrestling. This is the Game Changer Podcast. Featuring the greatest asset to come out of Canada, the legendary Mr. Fretz.
The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
I love myself. There's something so condescending to the champ to get out of my ring.
They think they got the answers. I change the questions. I did it all by my sweet little self. Two-time Slammy Award winner. I knew it. I'm a winner. I did it. Woo!
As well as featuring yours truly, the Game Changer, NateFNGreat.
I've had it. It's time for you to start listening to somebody else, and that somebody else is going to be me, and it's going to be right now. The dirty secret is you need this generation more than it needs you. You're not going to come out here and talk about how it should have been you, it should have been me, it should have been you, it should have been you, it should have been you, it should have been you 8 years ago, and it was kind of, then it wasn't, and it's not going to be again, and it's not going to happen. Just get over it.
I am the best on this microphone, in that ring, even in commentary. Nobody can touch me.
We change the game one day at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're ready, let's do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Coda Jacobs, the crusader and visionary behind a brighter future in wrestling. If you're an honorable and noble public servant like myself, you are listening to the Game Changer Podcast.
Allow us to beg your indulgence as we are the Game Changer Podcast. I am indeed Lord NateFNGreat. Here by my side is my colleague, the wonderful Master of Canada, that being the legendary Mr. Fretz.
It is I, your friendly neighborhood grocer, the exalted one of toilet paper. Your friendly neighborhood stock boy, something, I'm tired. Screw this virus, man. My goodness.
It's kind of funny. When you said something, I recently just watched the Jim Carrey series of Unfortunate Events, and I'm just taken back to that scene where he's just coming down the staircase and he goes like, something, into a crescendo. It's just so funny. I think I still prefer the Neil Patrick Harris one over the Jim Carrey one, but it was nice to just go back and watch that. So, guys, you might have guessed it by now, but by the music, we're going to be talking about the intellectual game changers of professional wrestling. And in all honesty, guys, there is a pretty long list to go through. It's going to take up quite a bit of time. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. But before we go into that, Mr. Fretz, do you mind if we have another quick cameo?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it, bro. Let's see.
Well, some of you guys usually wait until halfway through the show. This time around, you're not going to have to wait that long because it's starting right now, actually.
NateFNGreat. Hi. Congratulations on 5 years. 5 years of podcasting. Not many people grab the bull by the horns and actually go for what they really want in life. So 5 years of consistent podcasting is huge. Nate, the effing great. You can't be great without consistency, and 5 years says consistency and awesomeness. So, congratulations. That is awesome. I'm going to be on that podcast soon. Right? I'm going to I'll stab you in the head. So, congratulations, and I'll be seeing you very soon.
For those of you that are curious on who that madman was, that was Lucha Underground's Marty the Moth Martinez. And I am still working on trying to get him on the show, but I can almost guarantee that it's going to be within the next month, hopefully. I just got to reach out to him again, talk to him. He definitely does want to be a part of the show, if it's not evident by that cameo there. So thank you, Marty, for the cameo. Definitely looking forward to when we finally get him on the show. It's crazy. It's kind of almost as long to get him on the show as it was to get Susie Kennedy on the show, who, for those of you that are probably going to be knowing the fact that that interview will probably be up by the time that this recording is going on, or either that or it's being made at this point. Also hoping to talk to Mr. Bradley from The Rant. That's going to be another awesome guest to have on there, but that'll come at a later time. Right now, let's talk about some of the most intellectual game changers in professional wrestling history. And when I thought of this list, it's one of those things where you might think that there's not very many people that could probably pull off that gimmick. There were a lot more people in there. And actually, when I brought this idea up, you, Fretz, you actually gave me like a list of people that I almost forgot about. It's like there's this guy, there's this guy. It's like, oh, that's right. So basically, we're going to be talking about people who think that just because they have a higher education, they believe that they are better than everyone else. And trust me, we're going to get into the meat and willy-nilly part of it just a bit. Mr. Fretz, you have a question. You had your hand up.
No, I just, when you said higher education, I had someone I completely forgot to write down.
Oh my gosh.
And I'll mention him now.
Please do.
Christopher Nowinski.
Oh my gosh, the Harvard graduate. My God.
And not only for his Harvard smarmy smart-ass gimmick, but for the contributions he's bringing towards wrestling and sports today with his CTE concussion brain research. Like, he was the guy that got Benoit's brain, wasn't he?
I believe so. I'm not 100% sure. And I'll tell you this right now. I've actually only had like a couple of viewings of Christopher Nowinski, but I definitely will tell you that his character was just something else completely, because I don't think there's ever really been somebody who was like, I'm a legit Harvard graduate, I'm a legit guy who went to this college, and now I'm going to be a professional wrestler. I don't think it really has been that. I mean, the Steiners, they had like, the Letterman's jackets and stuff like that, but they never went on to be like, oh, hey, we got major muscles, until, Scott Steiner cut that big-time promo about 20 years later, but that's neither here nor there. I remember my first viewing with Christopher Nowinski was actually the, speaking of Scott Steiner, was Scott Steiner's debut night at Survivor Series 2002, where Christopher Nowinski, he's coming out, he basically is just berating the crowd. He actually took a shot at one of the teams. I forgot who it was. Do you remember who it was that he took a shot at during that promo?
Matt Hart, it was that, Survivor Series 02, and it was Matt Hardy and Chris Nowinski were in the ring. And I think it was right after the table match between Rico, 3-Minute Warning, and the Dudleys.
So, somewhere in there. It was on the show, and it was one of the more comical deals, just because Christopher Nowinski just said that he had that classic line of, everybody says that New York is number one. Well, they're right. They're number one in stupidity. Then Matt Hardy comes out and is like, no, they're a bunch of losers. And they're just kind of bickering, and then finally Matt Hardy came up with this ingenious idea of calling them losers and stupid, calling them loopid, which is one of those things where it's like, is that in the Urban Dictionary now? I'm not 100%. You know what? After we get through this, I'm actually going to look to see if loopid is on. Are you looking at it right now?
I'm on it.
Oh my gosh. I kind of want to know if it's in there.
True story, Fretz is on Urban Dictionary.
Oh, I think I do remember that. I think I remember you showing me that.
Yeah, it was not added in by me, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was added in by someone I'm distantly related to.
That's awesome. But as far as like his wrestling style, I know he kind of, some of his matches he had that wrestling the head attire like that Kurt Angle did after he got his head shaved. And I remember that Christopher Nowinski had that. Oh wait, that's right. He was also in Royal Rumble 2003. I do remember that, where he got eliminated by Mysterio. That was about it. Yeah, honestly, I need to look at more Chris Nowinski stuff, because there has to be like some gems with his character that I had to have missed, other than the Survivor Series 02 deal with Matt and him, because and Matt having that classic line of like, "Hey, who says that a Raw and SmackDown talent can't get along?" Because it was Eric Bischoff versus Stephanie McMahon. It was war. They all wanted to just take each other down. They wanted to just grab each other by the throat and choke the competition, just like I choked out WCW. Damn it!
With a lethal dose of poison. Oh wait, wrong story.
Oh, trust me. We got another podcast. We're going to be talking about those guys later on. So you started off with that one. I'll start off with one that you actually brought up that I kind of enjoyed for what it was worth. That being Matt Striker. Matt Striker, who was actually a teacher who got fired from his job, appears on an episode of Monday Night Raw to take on Kurt Angle for his Olympic gold medal. And he actually was the one who came very close to it until a certain special star came and won that deal. But we're not going to get into that, because I think that's going to be an episode in and of itself.
No, God, no.
Oh, we're doing it now, especially with that reaction. But yeah, Matt Striker then would go on to basically be this guy who thinks that, oh, I am Matt Striker, your teacher. I am going to teach everybody about, some of the smart things and blah, blah, blah. I love that he always did like these deals where he just had the chalkboard and he had the weird, like tacky sweater that he had. He was just one of those guys who I think he's vastly underrated. He was one of those guys that I don't think he could have been a world champion, but he definitely could have been a solid mid-carder had they pushed him in the right direction, instead of just being, just a comedy act, which some parts of it he actually did pretty well with. But I just remember Matt Striker being such one of those guys where it's like, oh God, no, I don't want to deal with these kind of people. And he would always just bring up, stuff from like a dictionary, or he would just have people do spelling bees and stuff like that. It was just like, oh my gosh. One moment I do remember was Vince McMahon was trying to settle this deal between John Cena and Kurt Angle, and he asked Matt Striker, what would you do to, ensure that, between these two? And Matt Striker was like, well, I would actually have these two sit down and write an essay as to what, like, the harms in violence were. And I'm just like, oh my God, I hate this dude, but he's so amazing. And of course, people remember him from his stunt in Lucha Underground, but no, that was still some really great stuff as well. I don't know if I've mentioned this story, but or maybe I've mentioned it like one time. I did actually have the opportunity to interact with Matt Striker. It was the final day of the first Starcast, and one of my final people that I was going to be meeting was Tommy Dreamer. So when I got up, so we're just waiting for him. He pops up, just about ready to have the meet and greets and blah blah blah. Matt Striker, he comes in, cuts in front of me, and he just basically shaking Tommy's hand, saying, "Hey, great job last night," and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. And then he basically just said, "Hey man, thank you so much for letting me." It's like, dude, no problem. I loved you in Lucha Underground. He's like, "Oh, thanks." So it was like a little brief interaction between me and Matt Striker. I liked it. And he still stands out as one of those guys that, again, vastly underrated, but also could have done so much more with the character.
Yeah, and we forget that he was a very, very good announcer as well. I got his Wikipedia up, and he wrestled under the name Matt Martell during a Kurt Angle Invitational in February 2005. And then it was after that, the fact that he was a teacher appeared in mainstream news. I think that's when he was let go. Comes back in July 11 to face Angle again, and he's like, "Hey, wait, you're that teacher guy. You're a liar. You're not a teacher." Just and Angle was just given out to him, and it was really funny. And then he went on to compete on Heat, and then Deep South Wrestling, which I think was the developmental just before FCW. This guy was so good on commentary. He was. We're talking about intellectual. This guy, he knew the moves. He knew the psychology. He knew the sports science behind everything in wrestling. I can't, pardon me, think of specifics, but if you listen to him at, say, I think it was the 2010 Rumble that he called, and yeah, he was just so good, but he wasn't, I don't want to say he wasn't popular, but you could tell that the announcers that he was with sometimes would sandbag him just a little bit or give out to him. His time on NXT, I think he commentated for like the inaugural NXT back when you had like Daniel Bryan on it. And
that's right. I do remember that now. Yeah, he was one of the hosts that was doing all the, when they were having like the competitions, he would like explain the rules and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I do remember that now. I actually forgot about that. I mean, NXT as the competition had its moments, but I mean, it's kind of one of those things that everybody kind of likes to forget ever happened. Kind of like, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 3 movie. People like to kind of brush that under the rug, being like, no, this never really happened. It just was kind of there. And I hate you. I hate you. He's doing the Spider-Man dance from Spider-Man 3. That's one thing she was like, nope, that's one of the sole reasons why I hate this movie.
I hit my head, MJ. I was watching Doug Walker's review. No, it wasn't his review. I started watching it, and I stopped because it was too long, and I was getting really... I've been working all week, so I'm just running on fumes right now. But him and his brother Rob, I was watching their first viewing of it, and they're just laughing throughout the whole thing, and Doug's like, I can find redeeming qualities in this, and then his brother is just like, you have dishonored your family and dishonored your cow. Get out. That was a long quote.
Oh, man, that was great. But, I think I can forgive Spider-Man 3 compared to the amazing Spider-Man 2, which, that just opens up a whole new one. But we're getting off topic there. Because,
I liked it, just for the record.
Oh, boy. Oh, man, I have to question my friends. I'm kidding. So, getting back to talking about, some of the more intellectual game changers of wrestling. There was one original one that we definitely should note, and I think that, Fretz, you may have had a little more experience with this individual than I have, so I think it's only fair that you take the reins for this. That being, he was described in just two simple words. What were those words again, Mr. Fretz?
The genius of glory and renown. Yes, the brother of the late, great Macho Man Randy Savage, Lanny Poffo himself, the genius, started off as he was a wrestler and a very good and extremely underrated cruiserweight before there were cruiserweights, well, at least in America, because by the time Lanny hit the States, New Japan was having, Jushin Thunder Liger and the original Tiger Mask, Pegasus Kid. At this point in time, Owen Hart was in Japan as well, so Lanny brought a style to America that, well, his name says the genius. I mean, he came out in a friggin' valedictorian robe and the whatever you call the graduation pointy hat. I forget what you call that. Folks, hit me up. Let me know at the legendary JF. Yeah, he was that cocky, I'm smarter than you heel, and he actually had I don't know what he has, college-wise, but he has a very, very large intellect. And I got to meet the genius at the first Comic-Con that I went to in 2017. He was very, very kind, such a gentleman. it was funny. The NWO, Hall and Nash were scheduled to be there, and they couldn't make it, so they had to book some wrestlers at the last minute. I didn't know who. Going for a lap, I'm just walking past all the people. I'm like, hey, there's Tara Reid, there's Marky Ramone, there's Wilfred Brimley. Like, oh, I look at this poster. I look at this poster, and it says The Genius. Look down. There's Lanny himself sitting in his chair, and he pointed out my OSW review shirt because he did a blurb for them some time ago, and he's just like, okay, you know what the gag that OSW does with What Bar?
I think so.
Okay, well, highly recommend watching anything by them, but look up What Bar, where they look at a wrestler's garish attire and just be like, Steve, what bar is Randy Savage? It's like, well, Jay, he is a packet of Belmont Blue Smokes. He is a packet of something crisps. And the Genius is like, hey, do you have a what bar? Like, no, I do not. So, funny interaction. We had a picture taken. I talked to him about Randy and how much I enjoyed him. He was selling his little frisbees and his book, which I didn't buy either of, and I'm shooting myself for it. And it looks like, well, unfortunately, my comic convention might be getting delayed. Thank you very much, COVID. We went from Kofi Mania to COVID Mania. This sucks.
Oh, God.
But yeah, the Genius, of course, he managed Mr. Perfect, and then you and I reviewed the Rumble 92 when he was managing the Brothers Beverly. He had a way with words and a way with poetry that is just unmatched today. He had the guy brought a thesaurus with him everywhere he went. He was brilliant. Very underrated in the ring. Like one of the first Americans I saw do like a Hurricane Rana or a head scissors or a moon, or even like a standing moonsault. Very well done.
Wow. Sheesh. Now I gotta look up some Genius footage because I've seen bits and pieces. I do remember his Hall of Fame speech when he was inducting his brother. Oh, gosh, that's rough. And you know something? It actually does go into a weird segue to the next person that's kind of a game changer of the intellectualism, that being Chris Jericho. Honestly, Mr. Fretz, why don't you kind of start off, what exactly it was about, Chris Jericho that made him such a game changer in this intellectual deal, and I'll cap in just a minute, because A, he's Canadian, B, he's the GOAT, C, okay, it's basically describing Fretz, let's be fair, so by all means, take it away.
There we go. So not only is Chris Jericho, intellectual and smart because of, like, the fact that he can reinvent himself every year. I mean, the guy like Lanny Poffo, and probably inspired by Lanny Poffo, he has a way with words himself. I can't remember exactly which ones he would use, but he would use words that contain more than like 4 or 5 syllables, especially during his WCW career, like early on. Not early on, no, when he was doing the single heel and he was being managed by Ralphus, who is like, the big fat out of shape guy with half his belly sticking out, and he was one of the truck drivers for WCW. Like, we'll give this guy a gimmick. And then Chris Jericho left and they paired him with Norman Smiley. It was terrible. But Chris, as I said, he constantly reinvents himself. He comes up with new ways to get over. Like, he made a piece of paper on, this is a booklet, he made a piece of paper on a clipboard over. He made a scarf over. MJF should be thanking him for that one. He made just made up words over. He made another list over with 1,004 holds. Arm bar, arm drag. The moss-covered, three-handled family credenza. You just pulled out that box of food and you're starving me, bro. Hook me up with a slice.
Right.
And it's his reinventions, and Jericho comes up with things that none of us would. Like, where did the list of Jericho come from? I don't know. I just remember seeing you just you just made the list, and then a week later it's over. A guy like Mick Foley, who I didn't write down for this list, but I think he's someone that deserves a lot of credit because he's not only is he a best-selling author, one of the best wrestling books of all time, he is a guy who can get comedy over in ways that we don't know, subtly. Jake the Snake Roberts is like, he's not like street smart or book smart himself, but when it comes to psychology and in-ring character work and microphone work, that guy's gonna out-promo us when he's in his coffin. That guy is so good. Like last night's promo on Dynamite, my goodness. Now on to Foley. Like, let's pull out a sock puppet. Next week on Raw, Socko 316, because in 1998 it was everything 316 signs because of Stone Cold. Like, I just farted 316. Jericho though. And now with his what's his thing now? It's his Fozzy as his entrance theme. It's he doesn't do the list. He doesn't do it. Yeah, 2-letter word. He got over. You're gonna get it. What? It. Because he doesn't like getting stale. He likes to see what works. And he's got his finger right on the pulse. Like, what's his thing now? I just can't. Oh, the El Champion and the Bubbly, of course. Says the guy who's drinking a White Claw, now available in Canada. Joey Janela, shout out.
It's honestly amazing. Like you said, seeing Chris Jericho just evolve from, the conspiracy theory Jericho back in WCW to the Jericho that he is now. And one of those times where he really shone was when he was doing his heel run it had to have been 2008, 9, around that time, where he went from being, the happy-go-lucky Chris Jericho, come on, baby, just getting everybody hyped up and excited, and then he turns into the most devious bastard that you could ever possibly imagine. He just comes out, he's wearing the suit, he's talking very, very subtle, like, he's just, I love how he basically talks about how he creates this character where he basically just wanted to have the Jericho gimmick to have a look of basically just saying, you're going down, you're definitely going to be defeated. That's the way it's going to be, and you're going to like it whether you like it or not. Just how he's able to just reinvent himself, especially during that time when he was just throwing out the words, hypocrites, parasites, infidel, just literally throwing shit out there in the wind. And like you said, seeing what sticks and then just being like, okay, it's working. It's getting a reaction. Let's push forward with it. Man, just I remember that Jericho being some of his best work. His feuds with, Shawn Michaels and Edge, the whole deal with the whole Raw general manager spiel was just absolutely hilarious, where he basically is just yelling at Cole, of course you got an email, you idiot, just read it. Shut up, just read it. It's one of those things where it's like somehow Jericho's still a heel, but he's the one thing that everybody wants to see either get his ass kicked or just perform at such a high level. He just continues doing that. It's just absolutely amazing just seeing how Chris Jericho evolves and how he creates a deal. And honestly, guys, we could go into a whole deal about Chris Jericho. We definitely wanted to talk about his intellectual deal. You mentioned Mick Foley. It takes a one-of-a-kind intellectual human being to pull off 3 gimmicks and to be able to create something different with each one of them. Mankind, he's a bit of a psychopath. He's a little bit deranged. Dude Love, he's the happy-go-loving guy who's just dancing, shucking, and jiving. And then there's Cactus Jack, who's literally like, yeah, I like barbed wire. I like rolling around in thumbtacks. I like doing this shit because it's fun. I love the pain. It's like, okay, he's, oh, jeez, just no thank you. And then just all 3 of these characters combined is indeed Mick Foley. It's just absolutely insane seeing how his career has evolved, from those deals where he was just, again, he was either Cactus Jack, he was either Mankind, he brought in Dude Love. Eventually it kind of stuck, and, 3 Faces of Foley. They all were in a Royal Rumble match. How the hell that happened? I don't know, Wrestling Logic 101. If you got 3 gimmicks, you could participate 3 times. I'm not asking questions anymore. I'm just going to let that one slide because it's Mick Foley. He knew how to pull it off really well. So, yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. So, let's get to the big kahuna. Definitely somebody who took the intellectual deal and just rolled with it immensely. And it created for some of the best content on TV. That being, his theme music played, Damien Sandow. Now, one of the things that kind of sparked this was the fact that they showed the What Culture Extra on YouTube of Adam Blumpia doing the Damien Sandow deal when he was Mr. Money in the Bank and everything that gone for there. And you just look back and think of all the crazy things that Damien Sandow did in his run with WWE. He started off as just, actually, if I remember correctly, he was a random tag team that Michelle McCool had that...
I'm on it now.
He had that going on from what the Ruthless Aggression podcast was, and they gave you a shout out. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. I'm also kind of jealous. I'll definitely be plugging those guys later on. They actually mentioned that he was the bunny at Vengeance 2003. So
yes, the bar fight, the APA bar fight invitational.
Yes,
and Idol Stevens, he tagged with a guy named Casey James.
That's who
as
it was.
Michelle McCool's teacher's pets, and they were briefly in a feud with tag champions Paul London and Brian Kendrick. They beat him in an
non-title match.
Thank you. I'm so exhausted. Non-title match, and then this is a way for Michelle McCool to break into the business, and then who did she feud with? But the manager of London and Kendrick, the late Ashley Mazzaro, R.I.P.
Yeah, so in a weird way, Sandow was one of those guys who, even in the early stages, was going to be doing some kind of intellectual deal. And then his first start, he was doing vignettes where he was just addressing the crowd, and he was being very intellectual, and he would always end them with the phrase, "You're welcome." And he would not debut for quite a while. He would just continue to just be like... I think if I remember correctly, he was supposed to debut against Derek Bateman, if I'm not mistaken, and... it was one of those times where he was just like, yep, nope, I don't feel like debuting right now. And then Bateman got killed by Ryback. Yay. Good to see EC3's come so far since then. So, eventually, Sandow would go on to, just be this guy who was, pretty good in the ring. He would cut the best promos. And then his, coup de grace would be teaming with the one and only Cody Rhodes to create Rhodes Scholars. Oh my gosh, that was an amazing team. Somehow they really worked well off each other. I am hoping that Cody Rhodes does have him in his sights, even though Stevens is indeed in NWA power right now. I am hoping that, if that contract comes up, Cody's just like, dude, need you to come to AEW, bring the intellectual savior of the masses gimmick there. And honestly, I would love to see a Rhodes Scholar reunion between the two of them. That's just me, though.
Oh my gosh, I just had an amazing idea.
I'm listening.
Okay, so you remember when we're going to talk about it because this leads into him being a genius in everything he does. Well, firstly, I have the... no, that's not what I want to do. Damn it. Where did it go? I had a thing here. His name, Damien's... Before I explain my idea, I thought it was cool to explain that his name, Damien Sandow, comes from the surname of the Goldust Trios, Billy Sandow, like Goldust Trios, like old school wrestling, like the 20s, not these 20s, but the 20s had diseases. Never mind. It was Billy Sandow, and it came from Billy Sandow and something else, and he had a militant gimmick in FCW. It says here. So okay, Sandow, Stevens, whatever you want to call him, is a stunt double for Orange Cassidy.
Oh my god, I would legit love that. Because guys, basically, what ends up happening is that Sandow would team with Cody, but then they would break off into a feud because he wins Money in the Bank, and unfortunately, he's the only guy who's cashed in and lost via pinfall. Sad days. After that, they just didn't know what to do with him, so he just started doing these deals where he was just parodying people like superstars and celebrities. There's a deal where he and...
that was after, actually.
Well, yeah. Well, after the whole Money in the Bank deal, yeah. Yeah, and he just does this deal where he actually dressed up like Magneto twice, and one of which he quote-unquote feuded with Hugh Jackman. Some people think it was the stupidest thing, but looking back at it, I'm like, okay, this is kind of funny. Just because, Hugh Jackman is the Wolverine. God, I wish we had a clone of Hugh Jackman, because then maybe he can come back for the Wolverine reboot, but that's just me. But Sandow was just slowly, kind of fading away, just doing these deals. There were a lot of stars that were doing that kind of stuff, where they were just impersonating people. Charlie Haas did a lot of that before he was axed off, and I think people were thinking, Sandow's probably going to be shown the door very soon, until, as you kind of mentioned, one of the redeeming graces to his career was him being the Miz's stunt double. So that's kind of where the Orange Cassidy stunt double deal came about. Right off the bat, having that kind of gimmick would just be funny. I would love to just see that. Just these two guys. I could just see Stevens in the jeans and the jean jacket. He's got the sunglasses on. He's just doing the same thing Orange Cassidy does. It would just be one of the most entertaining matches I would ever want in life. If we thought that Pac versus Orange Cassidy was amazing, imagine Aaron Stevens versus Orange Cassidy. That's going to put a lot of bucks in the seats.
With the karate gimmick, too.
Mongrovian
karate versus Orange Cassidy. Okay, I have spoken this into existence. Let when all this disease blows over and we can go and hang out in crowds again, I have spoken this into existence.
It needs to happen now. So basically, Sandow's gimmick of Miz's stunt double was just basically mimicking what the Miz was doing in the ring, whether he was getting beaten up, whether he was doing moves. It was just one of those things where at first it looked so corny and cheesy, but it got him over because of the fact that there were so many people that were just really loving it, and I was one of them. I really loved the Damien Sandow Miz stunt double deal, especially when there were moments where Miz was just upset and Sandow was just mirroring off that. There's that classic interview with Michael Cole where Michael Cole is just mimicking the Miz, and Sandow, he actually stops and he's just watching Michael Cole almost like he's just taking notes, being like, let's see how this goes. It's just so entertaining. I recently watched that interview and it's so funny just seeing that. And it's really weird to see like how far they've come. WrestleMania 27, he was on Miz's dick like no other. And then 4 years later, he's mocking the Miz and just getting him pissed off. Full circle moment, ladies and gentlemen. Take a shot, take a drink, whatever you'd like. But yeah, eventually they had a deal where Sandow was breaking off. They had him break off with the Miz. It's like, okay, we're going to see a great feud between the two of them. Well, yes and no, because we had that great Miz TV segment where he just beat the crap out of Miz and then made out with Summer Rae, which I literally look back, I'm like, oh my god, okay, they are really getting Sandow over right now. And honestly, the way that Summer Rae just touched Sandow, I was just like, okay, she might enjoy that just a little bit. Just a little bit. But then again, he's the intellectual savior of the masses. Why not? Then they had the whole deal with, the Mega Powers version reboot 2.0, which was because Curtis Axel created Axelmania because he was not eliminated for the Rumble, and then he had a feud with Sandow, which evolved him to become Macho Mando, and then they had that really sort of entertaining but very cringeworthy moment where they had 4 segments of them just going, trying to do like the random like handshake, and it felt like it went on forever. It went on too long. If they would have just done it like twice, they would have got the point across. But the fact that it was just continuing, it's like, God, it's like, it's like an Ultimate Warrior promo. I can almost still hear Ultimate Warrior talking about something random in WCW. Props to Brian Zane for that, because well deserved. And then after that, he was done. He went to Impact Wrestling, where he would do kind of what he was doing in WWE to kill off the deal. And then he did a deal where he was Liberace and did like a flamboyant gimmick and had Rockstar Spud as his like driver or something like that, which in all honesty, seeing Rockstar Spud, aka Drake Maverick, in that little outfit was very entertaining. It's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, that's kind of funny. That's at least worth the deal. I just did not get the Liberace deal. But Sandow was definitely one of those characters that I frankly enjoyed. Whenever he was the intellectual savior of the masses, whether he was doing the stunt double deal, rare times he was doing like the whole, impersonator deal. It was very funny. But yeah, I think that in all honesty, Sandow was just one of those guys who was vastly, vastly underrated, and hopefully better things are coming in his future. I know he's doing really well in NWA Power, but hopefully he gets that big break that he long deserves. Could he be a world champion? In honesty, I'm going to be bold and say yes. I think he definitely deserves it. He's one of those guys that can be very over. He's definitely improving with his in-ring work. He's definitely one of those guys that I could see being the face of the company. More of a face of the company than the Big Show, which, oh God, that segment. It's fine. It's fine. Anything to add as far as Sandow goes, Mr. Fretz?
Oh my goodness, where do I begin? Well, firstly, if you haven't watched, any of you within the sound of my voice, if you have not watched Adam Blampier's How WWE Should Have Booked Damien Sandow, was that what we were just talking about now? Yeah,
yes.
There's a bunch that he just did, but I think his Sandow one might be old, like a lost video from when he was in What Culture. Mm-hmm. I highly recommend it. It's basically how I would do things. I would have him, as they said, they'd have him as the Raw general manager, and it's like, he's like an evil genius, like clasping the brandy glass, or I'm not going to pick up my $130 microphone like a brandy glass right now because I'd be effing with their audio, but you get my point.
Yeah.
Sandow was a guy, I think, if the WWE didn't unify the titles, and if Raw and SmackDown were still
separate.
Thank you. Sandow would have been the champion, and if I were booking, say if I were to fantasy book some Damien Sandow quickly, I would have him win I would just have him win the title. He'd have his feud with Cody, and this is how I'd have Cody have his world title run in WWE, because I think Rhodes Scholars either broke up as a result of Money in the Bank or just around the time of Money in the Bank. And what a great play on words for that team name. That is like God tier stuff right there. That is great wordplay. Speaking of a guy who's smart, and I didn't see any of Stevens' TNA run, and we were going back. You were talking about Jericho's heel run. That's something I didn't watch a lot of myself as well, but I was very aware of it. College.
Education.
Yes. Sandow, I think after first off, his intellectual savior of the masses, and the fact that he came out to the ring to a Christmas carol. The Hallelujah song, they call it, that is from Handel's Messiah, and during the holidays, if any of you included Nate, if you get to see a performance of Handel's Messiah, get on it. It is a beautiful piece of music. The only other song I think that might have a little bit of prominence, this is maybe for churchgoers, so Dallas Thomas, I think your ears are about to prick up, but there is a piece of music from there called For Unto Us a Child is Born, and it derives from, I think it's from Matthew, where it says, for unto us a child is born, a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders. He shall be called Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. And it's a song with all that in it. Gorgeous. And every time I heard, hallelujah, rest in peace, headphones. I'm sorry, Zach. Only because your rant blown mine out too. not actually, but yeah. I always got a chuckle. It's like he's coming to the ring to a Christmas carol, and it's July. So good. He was someone I thought for a while at least was able to adapt and change it up. But after his feud with The Miz fell flat, I just couldn't see it. And that's when he did the stupid Macho Mandow crap, which the lesser said about that, the better. As much as I love the Mega Powers, and I like it when some people try to imitate, like, who is it? Black Machismo. Very good job. I'll dare say Curtis Axel. Axel Mania was hilarious. So entertaining. Sandow, not with that. He can do comedy. Like, especially his gimmick now in NWA is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Like, he did a bit. He was in the ring with somebody. It had to be Trevor Murdoch, but he did just like basically corpsing or planking. He stood stiff, bounced off the ropes, and then just went like plank right on his face, just completely flat. He's funny. Like Foley. He must have learned from Foley. He's a guy who can take like chicken shit and turn it into chicken salad when it comes to comedy. A karate gimmick, yeah, that's dumb. Look at Kung Fu Naki. That was stupid. Look at Avatar, Shinobi, Al Snow. Stupid. Damien Sandow. Works. What else is a highlight? We probably covered all the highlights.
Oh, yeah.
The stunt double stuff was the best. It'd be the best part of when they won the tag titles. Miz is holding up both belts like he did it himself. And every time it'd be like, they're surprised they won. They're just like, oh. So Damien looks at him like,
Right.
Every time the Miz moves, it was Mortal Kombat mirror match. Oh, I could gush on and on, but I have a pillow calling me later.
So I want to do one more great thing that came out of that stunt double deal from David Sandow, because I always thought this was kind of funny. Some people think it's kind of stupid, but I look back at it, it's kind of hilarious. When Miz was feuding with Sheamus, and they had their match, I believe it was at Hell in the Cell, Miz lost, no shock. So literally they have both Miz and Sandow, he's lying there. Sheamus is just like, what is going on here? He lifts Miz's arm up, there goes Sandow's arm. He's basically getting him up, and Sandow's going up as well. Next thing you know, Sheamus has got the Miz doing the YMCA, and Sandow is just mirroring that fact. It's so stupid, but it's so entertaining. It's funny. It's stuff that, God, I honestly look back and I think to myself, maybe I was a little too harsh on this, because this was good shit, damn it. And not the good shit like, fart jokes, getting a shot in the bum, some dude peeing his pants. Good shit. I'm talking like legit good shit that actually was funny, was actually entertaining, and stuff that really just made us feel like, oh wow, wrestling is, it can actually be very entertaining. It doesn't always have to be serious. It can be fun. So that was awesome. So guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some of the things that took place this past weekend, as well as talk a little bit about what's to come in the future. So stay tuned, guys. We will be right back. Boom shakaloo!
I'm Wild.
And I'm Randy Fitzsimmons, and this is the Game Changer Podcast. Pew, pew, pew.
What's going on, everybody? Do you remember the Monday Night Wars? The quote-unquote greatest time in wrestling? Well, was it? Because this is Wrestle Wars. And in Wrestle Wars, I go, Willie T, T as in Thomas, A-R-A-S-H-U-K, goes down and breaks down week by week, month by month, pay-per-view by pay-per-view, every year of the fabled Monday Night War. I was right. WWF versus WCW with the sprinkled in ECW starting in January of 1996 all the way up to March of 2001. You will get a month by month breakdown of who won the Monday Night Wars. What you can expect from this show. Monthly scoring system. You got the mid-card, undercard, and main event. So who is actually going to win the Monday Night Wars? You have to listen and find out on our $5 Patreon page. It's only $5, guys. You can watch along with me, Willie T, and enjoy the chaos that is the Monday Night Wars on Wrestle Wars.
Hey guys, this is NateFNGreat. Hey, have you ever wanted to be a champion but can't seem to really find the money and the time to get a championship belt? Well, you know who's a really good friend of mine? AJ from AJsBelts.com. These guys have a large assortment of championship belts, from classic belts to the modern day belts to championship belts you would not even believe. And guys, like I said, they work with you very well. With an awesome layaway program, there is no way that you can beat these guys' prices as well as these guys' deals, especially when you can give them a little bit of money every now and then until you can get that championship gold. Coming from a guy who's a champion and a game changer, I'm indeed NateFNGreat. I'm representing AJsBelts.com, proud friends of the Game Changer Podcast. I missed that Bobby Roode. This Robert Roode sucks. They made me hate one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Damn you, WWE. Damn you. Welcome back to the Game Changer Podcast, a part of Wrestle Addict Radio. Guys, check us out as well as the Kings of the Rings, as well as the Young Lions Perspective. Definitely check out their podcasts and check out their pages. They're absolutely amazing. You can check out legendary Mr. Fretz here at the legendary JF on the Twitter. He also does his own podcast. You should definitely check those out. They are absolutely fun. They're absolutely amazing. I am at the Real FN Game, and I'm going to be working on trying to get some more content on the Game Changer Podcast page, hopefully within the next month, especially now that I'm going to have the time for it. Stupid flu bug. Oh, it's not a flu bug. It's good. I know. But I have spoken. Just like Mr. Fretz has spoken about the whole Sandow stunt double Orange Cassidy deal, which honestly should be amazing. If you do that, give him the damn royalties. But I have spoken as well when it comes to that. So,
give me the ticket.
give him the golden ticket.
I'm going to need a fucking vacation when this shit's over. Because, folks, unlike some of you, I work at retail. I'm a grocer. And we're out of. Actually, we're not bad for compared to like stores in the city. We're out in the country. We're cottage country. So we are where the city slickers go to get away from the city. And I don't blame them. If I lived in like Toronto, I would come up here if I had a cottage and be like, okay, there is too much of this, but we need people to stay. Like, I'm not gonna go on the stay home self-isolation rant because people aren't listening.
Oh yeah, the social distancing, whatever the fuck it's called.
Or self-quarantine.
Oh.
That's social distancing is something I am master of because I don't have any friends, so it works out perfectly. Oh, I made myself feel bad. And my beer fridge is all the way over there. I can't reach it. Oh, damn.
For those of you that are listening to this, please, by all means, go to the legendary JF and show him some love. He needs friends. Because I just work with him. I'm kidding. We're bros, we're brothers, till the end, man. Too sweet. So this past week, despite this whole coronavirus fiasco, stuff like that, it was still a very interesting week. I know that this past Saturday I did an interview with the one and only Dusty Dave, and there were a lot of people that were so happy to hear Dusty Dave back in the podcasting deal again. He did get a chance to talk about his podcast, so definitely, if you have not gotten a chance, go check that out. It is really awesome. Also, the title itself should tell you how much Dusty Dave, or like the feelings Dusty Dave's have towards his former, I guess you could say co-host, the one and only Queen Bee, Kate Murphy. I think that should tell you how much he endorses you, Kate. So just be aware of that.
They deserve their own shirt.
Queen Bee deserves a shirt. Dusty Dave deserves his own shirt. Honestly, not wrong. Definitely not wrong.
I was referring to Kate in the proper pronoun they, but I'll say Dusty Dave, you as well, bro.
Oh, that's right. God damn it.
Get you the Dusty Dave. I'm trying to say the right thing, guys.
I know.
Yeah, here we go. Kate, you deserve your own shirt, and for the love of everything holy, get it before me. I'm the last guy that should get a shirt.
Oh, man, that would be absolutely amazing. I will say this. I did get a chance to listen to the Ruthless Aggression podcast where they covered Vengeance 2003. I will definitely say this. I absolutely recommend that because it is one of the most entertaining shows I've heard from these guys. And I actually do have the Game Changer of the Week for this week, so I'm giving it to the Ruthless Aggression podcast. Those guys are just funny. They're amazing. Jake, Kyle, Levi, you are an absolutely crazy trio. There's some times where you guys get a little too crazy, but at the same time, I can dig it. I absolutely love it. Just some of the stuff that they do is just absolutely amazing. So definitely they deserve it. Vengeance 2003, hey, it was a better show. And hey, they were giving a lot of credit to future Hall of Famer Jamie Noble.
The Ruthless Aggression, the Game Changer of the Week, Pepsi Blues, Blast of the Week. I want Pepsi Blue now. Oh, my gosh. I would kill for a bottle of that right now.
And you know how
Damn it, Levi.
And you know how you could kill somebody with that deadly Spagingo.
Oh, that's perfect.
Oh, man.
I have to finish that because I didn't have nights this week because, we weren't sure about our delivery schedule. So I've worked early every day this week, so I haven't had the chance to catch up on my pods. I haven't even listened to Zach. So,
oh, man.
Or the Kings, for that matter. I haven't listened to KOTR yet, but bright and early I'm going for a walk tomorrow morning. And I'll get at least Kings of the Rings out. They had Balor Club Guy on this week, so that's something to definitely look out for. Shout out to Balor Club Guy. And congratulations, New Gen Podcast.
I will say this, guys. Definitely check out the Kings of the Ring podcast for that reason. I've gotten the chance to actually meet Balor Club Guy in person. It was kind of one of those situations where Dave and I were, I think, going down, or we were coming up during like the StarCast weekend, and we ran into him, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember this guy. So cool. He's a really cool dude. He's definitely somebody who is a true wrestling fan. So definitely check him out and definitely follow him on the Twitter. Little cheap plug for him right there. Even though he's going to get all the plugs that he deserves on the Kings of the Rings, we're just going to give a little more of a notch there. Yeah, it's going to be just crazy because I know I still have to watch that classic Starcade. I think it's like 1988 or something like that because we did have this deal where we would do like a pay-per-view roulette, and this is something that hopefully I will get done in the next couple of days because I want to watch this Starcade event. I think it's headlined with Sting versus Vader, if I'm not mistaken, which in all honesty sounds like an awesome match. I could be wrong. I did not get a chance to.
That's 90s. If it's Vader, it's got to be like 91, 92.
Maybe I'm thinking.
But anyways.
But yeah, definitely check that out. I'll definitely try to get something before the month is done because, well, this is my month to do it, and we were kind of the ones that pushed the idea. So it's like I gotta set the bar now. So definitely, hopefully, it's gonna be a fun deal. We're gonna do like a review for each pay-per-view, give our thoughts, general consensus on it. So yeah, it's a solo deal, and it's something that hopefully you guys will enjoy because it'll not just be me doing it. It'll be the rest of the Wrestle Addict Radio Network will be doing this as well. So it's going to be a monthly deal. And hey, go check it out on Patreon for the low price of $1, $2, $3, $4, $5. $5, not much, and it can get you a lot of content. So definitely enjoy that. It's going to be awesome. But Mr. Fretz, what did you do this past week? Did you listen to anything fun, or did you have anything that you wanted to bring up?
As I said, I didn't listen to a lot of podcasts just because I've been really busy. I cannot imagine what hospital workers on the front line are going through. I think is our mutual friend Kayla. I believe she works in one. So Kayla Muchus.
Yes.
So shout out to Kayla, especially shout out to my mom who works at an old age home.
Also shout out to Wolf Baby.
What's that?
Also shout out to Wolf Baby.
Oh, Wolf Baby, how can I forget? Yeah. Mom works at one, and it's actually right across the street from my parents' house. And this virus just, as I said, I'm optimistic that we're all going to be okay. This is going to go through. This too shall pass. But a little bit of me worries about my parents because, Mom works with the nurses, and she said there's some people are being sick on one end of the floor that had to get shut down. Dad, well, you know how my dad's been he's really good now. I mean, everything's been on the up and up now, but with the compromised immune system as he has, I was going to go see him in April, but I think I'm just going to postpone that trip for maybe early in the summer when, everything blows over and I don't risk carrying, if I don't have it, maybe I carry it to someone, and
right.
It would kill me if that happened. But I did listen to most of Ruthless Aggression. I started watching Bret Hart's Broken Skull Sessions with Bret Hart.
Oh, that's right. That came out this week, didn't it?
Yep. I watched Ruthless Aggression thing last week. I managed to squeeze in Raw and AEW this week, and my Fave 5, spoiler alert, is full now thanks to those two shows. You could probably guess what one there are. And right now in front of me is a New Japan show, I think from the same day as AEW in Chicago, the one that you went to. All Out?
All Out, yep, that would be the one that Dusty, Dave, and I went to, because All In, I went to the viewing party, which, hey, I got to sit next to VicTori and Gail Kim for a match. I'm not complaining at all.
Nice.
That was great. And I can only imagine who else has probably gotten a chance to sit with some, great stars. Just, Starcast is just absolutely great. I did also get a chance to talk to Dave about, where would be the next time that the Belt Bros would probably reunite. Right now, as long as things are good, maybe plan on seeing us for Survivor Series, folks. Never really know. Also, okay, so here's going to be something that we should probably talk about. There's been a lot of speculation about what's been going on with WrestleMania and what's going to be going on with that. So, obviously, the whole thing with the stadium deal, that's out. The main thing that they've been talking about is doing a deal at the Performance Center, as well as possibly doing a 2-night WrestleMania event, which would be
legit.
It is legit. Okay, because I know that there's been talks about them doing moving WrestleMania to June, I believe it was, and then having it be in Madison Square Garden when this whole thing blows over. But it looks like they are going with the whole 2-night deal at the Performance Center, correct?
Yes, the weekend of the 4th and 5th. It's I think there have been some matches already made. Like night 1 is going to have Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar. I think it's going to have Ripley and Charlotte. Night 2 is going to have Roman and Goldberg and The Fiend versus John Cena. Now, I don't care. Like I'm all for it because for me, WrestleMania is like my night just to hang out, by myself like I do every other night and whatever. But I just love it because it's wrestling. Vince McMahon, I gotta give it to him here. He's like, I'm a genius. Well, yeah, you're finding ways around this, right?
Just one time in a pile of a lot of stinking elephant doo-doo that he's a genius. Now we could have made the argument that Vince McMahon is a genius in and of himself. Okay, early on, Vince McMahon, he was an effing genius. He really was. I'm not going to deny that. He was the guy who brought in a lot of the big stars. He bought out, a lot of the companies. He definitely did that. That I'm willing to admit. It's just nowadays, there's so many things that he's doing that's been so bad that it kind of makes you forget about the great things that he has done. And the fact that there are people that are just letting him get away with it, it's like, this is rough. Is he really surrounding himself with a bunch of yes men that will always say yes to him no matter how dumb his idea is? That sucks. Because I really notice this. This is kind of a recurring theme from a lot of networks and stuff that I've heard from. I think mainly from Salamonster, who I listen to just about every week. It seems like a lot of these programs have been made for an audience of one. Not for 1 million, not for 2 million, but an audience of one. That being Vince McMahon himself. And I will say this, it kind of holds true with the Beyond the Mat documentary that I got a chance to watch this past week. I've never even heard of this. I never even saw this. It was
really?
Yeah. It wasn't until I saw it, I'm like, okay, this might be kind of interesting. I watched it, and this guy does a documentary about a lot of the people, a lot of the shows, WWE, ECW. They followed a little bit of Jake the Snake. They covered, Foley and Rock at the Royal Rumble. A lot of these just crazy things that they've done. He even had like an interaction with New Jack, to which I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. Let's just hope he doesn't do anything too crazy. I think that when he had that audition, that was one of those moments where it's like, just please don't let him go crazy. Don't let him go crazy. And they're just saying positive things like, oh yeah, he's going to do well. He could be like a lead man and blah blah blah, stuff like that. There's even somebody who even said like, I don't know, I think he would be like the best friend to the lead man. Where it's like, okay, so he would kind of be like the Chris Tucker to the Jackie Chan, basically. Which which maybe that's a bad analogy because Chris Tucker is a little bit funnier, and I'm not scared of Chris Tucker, to be fair.
Never touch a black man's radio, boy!
I love those moments. Rush Hour is just an absolutely great trilogy. Check that out. Cheap plug. But yeah, it was a really good documentary. I frankly enjoyed that. Got to see a very young Noel and Dewey Foley, and also back then got to see how Mrs. Foley looked back in the day. Wow, she was beautiful back in the day. what happened to her? I'm not trying to start anything with the Foley, but it's just one of those things where it's like, man, age was just not good to you. That's who I blame. I blame nature. I blame age. Which, I'm no spring chicken. Let's be fair. It was just one of those things where it's just kind of crazy when you see what she looked back then to how she looks now. But that's just me. And there's other people that have had age. Yeah. I'm just gonna stop digging myself into this hole. I'm just gonna leave it be. So
You're looking at one, bro.
Who's dug himself into a hole?
No, about aging ungracefully.
Oh. I think I could definitely say the same thing about myself, because I look at the photos back in the day and I was like, oh, geez, I kind of look cute. Oh, I kind of looked adorable. Okay, that's fine. Then I look at myself nowadays, like, what the hell happened to me? Age is not being so well with me. And for some people that might say, like, oh, no, you're so good. Let's be fair. In my 20s, I was able to get a lot of dates. I'm gonna put that out online right now, is that 20s was like prime. Nate is going to find a woman, and it's going to be awesome kind of deal. I'm reaching 30 right now, and I probably have not had a date in quite a long time. Even though somebody might argue that one of my recent hangouts with my friend was technically a date, whatever. But it's just one of those things where it's like, and he's giving me the tire. Oh, the 10 deal, because
10 years.
Yeah, I'm getting close to that. I am getting close to that now. Actually, speaking of 10, I do want to talk a little bit about AEW this past week. First of all, Shawn Spears, MJF at ringside, freaking hilarious. Can we just
give me that team?
Give us that team, but also give them just those comedy bits where they're just randomly gambling on random matches. Oh my gosh, that moment where Tony Schiavone is just like, "Wait, are you gambling on these matches?" And MJF is just like, "Are you asking if we're gambling on this? How dare you say it?" And he's just putting the microphone down, like, "Do you want a piece of the action here? Do you want?" It's like, what the fuck? And then, we finally found out who the Exalted One was. It was unfortunately not Broken Matt Hardy, for a lot of people that were hoping that was going to be. It was Brody Lee. And in all honesty, he made quite the impact, and I'm totally fine with this. I love his promo where he was just saying, like, you're not the first old man to not know what I'm capable of, but you are going to be the last.
Old man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for correcting me. I thought that was awesome. I thought that was great. Maybe not compare Christopher Daniels to Vince McMahon, but I'm just saying. But I also did love when looked like he was going to go for the Sister Abigail. Then he just pops up, Daniels up, hits his discus clothesline, hits it as beautiful as ever. I loved it. And we got one of the most surprising debuts that I don't think a lot of people were expecting. There were some people who were like, oh, I knew he was going to come. For me, it was like, maybe he's just going to do like this kind of deal.
I knew it.
So Inner Circle gets the advantage going into Blood and Guts. Chris Jericho and the Inner Circle, they're celebrating, they're happy, blah blah blah. We see a drone flying in there, and at first I thought there was like theme music. I'm just like, what the fuck kind of theme music is that? And then I look on the screen, I'm like, wait, that's a white drone. Only one person has a white drone. Like, no way. And all I was thinking to myself is, where is he? Where is he? Basically, Matt Jackson was just saying, we may be down a man, but you have to know that I made a call. I made a call for a favor. And camera pans. We look up. We see a dark shadow. Light goes on him. It's Broken Matt Hardy. And he's got a red streak in his hair. Because why not? It's something new. It's something different. It was one of those things where I was like, hey, I dig that. I rocked that dude one time. I think I remember it was actually during the Broken Matt Hardy deal. I just had like a red streak going through my hair. And I think, this was a long time ago. And it's kind of crazy to think that the same person who cuts my hair now was the same person who did that back in the day. That's amazing. God, we're getting old, dude. We are like, I feel like the two of us are the two oldest people in this entire Wrestletic radio family.
Well, we are now because, Fourth Wall went and did their own thing. Because I think each of them, I know that all of one or two of the guys, Bones and Doc Haas, shout out to the Fourth Wall lads, by the way, they're killing it on the Fourth Wall podcast. I'm loving it. Their sports talk, fantastic. Either Doc or JC Bones are my age. Like I'm turning 30. I'm turning 36 in a month and 4 days.
Wow. Month and 4 days, which means I got to get on that cameo. Surprise.
Hey, John Cena has the same birthday as me, but he's expensive. Ric Flair is $500. Don't go spending that on me, a little old me. I met Ric Flair. I don't need that.
I definitely want to make it like somebody memorable, not go too crazy with, John, I'm going to follow everybody on Twitter, Cena. Because let's face it, he has been doing that to a lot of people. There's been so many people on Twitter I've seen that have said, oh, I got followed by John Cena. It's like, nope, this is legit. This is not one of those fake accounts where it's like Bailey9847, and people are like, oh my god, Bailey follows me now. It's like, might want to look at the look at the thing again.
They know, they're just trolling.
Yeah. Trolls. Back in our day, back in our day, they weren't like little, little pricky people or those little like furry things that you would see in movies where they're just, oh gosh, the troll movies. What the hell?
Troll dolls, bro.
Yeah.
I had them.
Oh, you had them?
I had Street Fighter troll dolls, E Honda and Blanca, and a baseball player and just a regular blue troll. Yeah, I had them. As I told you, I'm 36. I had the shit that your parents had when you were kids.
Fair enough. But the point I was trying to give is like when we thought about trolls, they were like those. I think they were like those creatures that were like hiding under the bridge or something like that.
3 million scruff.
Yeah. You know what's actually crazy is that one thing I've definitely gotten a chance to watch is Jovenshire and Lasercorn, who were associates of Smosh. They've been doing a lot of D&D stuff as of late. So I've been kind of listening to this, and just some of the things I'm listening to, I'm like, oh gosh, this is kind of awesome. Because I remember I did like the live action, medieval like role playing, like a long time ago. I think when I was living in Merrill when this happened. But yeah, it was just kind of one of those things where they had people, dressed up like medieval, and I was going to be like a mage. But then I kind of fell out of it because I got too busy. Yes, I'm a vintage nerd. Thank you so much for that look. So there's a part of me that kind of wants to get into D&D because it sounds amazing, and it just sounds fun. But that's just me. I don't know. I know that people are probably thinking like, wait, this is a wrestling podcast. Why are you guys talking about D&D? Because we can.
I would do it too.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That'll be amazing. I did also mention to Dave, and we're definitely going to see how things go, especially with this. One thing that we definitely do want to do is bring the Belt Bros to Canada, and honestly, I would love to get like a 3-way live podcast between you, me, and Dave. I think that's a bucket list item right there.
Absolutely, and I can get Big Goldie that's just sitting up to the right of me here, so.
Oh man, it would just be a lot of fun. So guys, I think we're going to call it an episode. This was a very shorter episode than normally what we do here, but I did see that Mr. Fretz gave me the one signal, which means probably I missed something, and more than likely I missed something.
The question of the week, I think.
Well, I mean, it is going to be random because you're going to be so tired that I'm going to be. The only thing I'm hoping is that with this random question, it is something that is sort of intelligible and words are not misplaced anywhere. So
use closed captioning, folks.
Fair enough. This is like South Park deal here. But anyway, yes, the random question of the week. What is that, Mr. Fretz?
Well, I'm going to give you two, because this one I think you'll answer right away, because you've probably answered it before.
Okay.
What's your finisher?
My finisher would be... Jeez Louise. My finisher would be the Jeez Louise, yeah, no. The Corona Spit of Death. It's just literally like a mixture of the green, black, red mist I'm like, no, it's not. I always enjoyed the cutter, the RKO as a finisher, and I always did it in my backyard wrestling days. I would call it like the TG owned or the TGO for obviously the great one. So yeah, it was the RKO, but I'm also enjoying the rolling cutter, even though people are like, that's a standard random people generic finisher. It's like, dude, one of the greatest wrestlers in the world is using it. Shut the hell up.
Yes. And you know what? With all this negativity and pessimism we're seeing online and the fear, give me one positive highlight from any aspect of your life this week.
One positive aspect from my life. In all honesty, one thing that I really think is a positive deal is the fact that I got the chance to go out and do an audition for a play. I also got to do training with some people because now I work for Sprint, and I got to. It's like me and one other girl that we're doing the training for. So we've definitely gotten a chance to talk and get a chance to kind of know each other a little bit better. It's kind of crazy because she's kind of shown me her boyfriend's TikTok, which should tell you how that relationship is going. It's entertaining to say the least. Just seeing him doing like these TikTok deals and just be like, I'm bored throughout the day. I'm just doing this. Yeah, no, I totally get it. One other positive aspect is that so far, the two shows that Game Changer Podcast is sponsoring have not been postponed yet. So it is going to be in mid-April. Honor Bound with RVD and Water City Wrestling Con. Yep, the dreaded fingers crossed deal. Hopefully things are going well. In all honesty, guys, the positive thing from this week is just knowing that life is not, for me, not stopping. I am living life like it's a regular day. I'm just a little more cautious because, yes, there are people that are, that could be carrying the coronavirus, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, you know what? I have battled and dealt with worse things in life. I literally was just saying this to somebody the other day. I was just saying, the coronavirus is one of the more feared things, but I have literally faced worse in my life. And they were just like, yeah, no, you really have. So it's like, dude, I've looked death in the eye. This coronavirus does not scare me one bit. I will be safe about it. I will be smart about it. But am I going to fear it? Hell to the fucking no. There's nothing that is going to keep me from living my life the way I want to live it, even if it's a coronavirus. It's not going to take me down, not by an inch. So long story short, that kind of answer your question?
Absolutely, man. Like it. I love it.
So, guys, definitely check us out on our Twitters at The Legendary JF, at RealFNGame, as well as at Addict_Wrestle, in which you can check out the Wrestle Radio family, Kings of the Rings, as well as Young Lions Perspective. Also, shout out goes to Ant, who had a new podcast this past week. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I want to get the name of it right. It was it's a podcast where basically he's talking about like Philadelphia. It's like Philadelphia themed, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm on it. Keep spitting.
Sure. Definitely check out The Rant if you got a chance. The Ruthless Aggression podcast if you got a chance. He found it.
The Whiz Wit Pod. WHIZWIT Pod. I believe it's a play on words of the Chili's. Of Cheese Whiz, Philly cheesesteak, that whole deal. It's Philly sports, and
Philly, yep.
I'm a Toronto guy, but I love hearing about other sports, well, that aren't Boston. I'm not sorry, Will, because screw Boston sports.
I love it. Like I said, Ruthless Aggression Pod, check them out, especially their Vengeance 2003 episode that finally came out. I did make a joke to them. I said, hey, if you ever need somebody to fill in for one of your co-hosts, because I know that they're not going to like the results of Unforgiven 2003, I'd be more than happy to fill in for them.
Count me in.
Right? Honestly, that'd be even better. Just get the both of us on there, just so that we can both say Spagingo, or just do random Big Show jokes out there,
or just do a commercial for them or something.
That'd be amazing. I will message them and say, hey, if you need us to do a commercial for you guys, we will be more than happy to, just because you guys are awesome. Also, check out the Movie Men podcast. I know that they had their Harry Potter episode this past week. I'm not a big fan of Harry Potter, but I love these guys, so I am listening to it, and it's going to be an absolutely fun and magical journey, especially when you hear the phrase, "You're a wizard, Harry," because that's the only thing I remember from the first movie. Well, that and the beans was the other thing.
I did have a thing to plug here for myself, if you don't mind.
By all means.
Yeah, so, of course, I've been uploading more content on my Fretzelmania podcast feed lately. I put up my most recent episode of Fretz's Fave 5 from the Patreon, and you know what? Because it's just a little bit rough lately, and everyone's either in, self-isolation, quarantine, feeling down, I'm making the decision myself that for a couple more weeks, I'm going to make the Fave 5 free on our Patreon and my Fretzelmania feed, FRETZLE Mania. And this Monday, I was just really bored. I picked up my phone, so I'm like, you know what? I think it'd be therapeutic for me just to sit here and hit record. I talked about Mania going to the PC, and I live reacted to AJ and Taker's contract signing on Raw. So yeah, hit me up if you want to hear some of that. Who else have we got? My usual ones: Laser Time, Healing Hut, and yeah, that's it. And of course, those wrestling girls.
Those wrestling girls who actually did a Women of WrestleMania podcast this past week. Definitely going to listen to that. Definitely got to leave them a like, leave them a comment, be subscribed, as well as check out their Patreon because it is absolutely awesome. I'll tell you this, you guys. They have actually been showing off people who are, just like them. They're women who love wrestling. So for those of you that are looking to maybe get a little more women in your life that especially love wrestling and love to talk about wrestling, check that out. It's really awesome. But please, don't be creepy. Be respectful. Because if you don't, I'll just give you a nice big old Superman punch. And I'll tell you this right now. Even though the gym is closed, I have a friend who has like a little mini gym in his basement. I've been practicing a lot of like elbow strikes and stuff like that. Yeah, I can tell you this right now. My strikes are getting better and better. So if you want to try to mess with those wrestling girls, you got to mess with the game changer himself. Also, is it kind of weird that my friend and I also were doing submission moves on each other just to see like where is like our limit on that? Yeah, they're weird.
That's fine.
They're weirder things. In all honesty, guys, it is one of those things that can be a little bit intimidating and a little bit scary, but in the end, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, at least we know how to properly do these moves. At least we don't have to make them look, half-assed fake like certain, wrestling promotions have done. I'm not going to mention any names because that would just be mean. And I try to take the high road. Anyway, so guys, thank you so much for tuning in as Fretz is falling down according to my phone. Definitely, guys, know that take each day for what it's worth. Make it count. Be the difference. Be somebody who makes a difference in somebody's life. And we will talk to you guys next week. Because he is the legendary JF, I am NateFNGreat, and we are the Game Changer Podcast. See you guys next week for more fun and more game-changing moments.
Join the Dark Order.
Okay, that's fair.